Hello, everybody. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the circus that is Congress. Another hearing, another circus. This time, it's about the confirmation of the judge. It's really something to just stumble over the words trying to put it together to talk about this thing. It's super bewildering. Don't really know where to go from this debauchery of this process. I'm a firm constitutionalist, so it's hard to get away from the rights that we inherently have, and the one right that there seems to be overlooked in this is the right to be innocent until proven guilty. So I just want to put that out there first. I'm going to go over both of the testimonies of Dr. Ford and Brett Kavanaugh. Just a different perspective. I haven't really delved into this until the last week after the testimonies that they gave and the call for a FBI investigation, which we're still waiting for the Russia investigation 2 years down the road. So how are we going to get a investigation of a case 36 years old done in 1 week? Like I said, it's a circus. We're going to try to dissect it and see what the fuck kind of shit they're trying to pull over our eyes. But the first thing I want to go over is the whole reason why we're here, the allegation. Now that the whole allegation arose in a secret letter to Senator Dianne Feinstein, on July 30th of this year. Shortly after his nomination, I believe he was nominated July 8th or 9th, somewhere in that time range. So by the end of the month, there was a secret letter to Feinstein. The letter was kept secret for over 2 months. So the letter didn't get put out to the public right off the bat. It didn't get put out publicly until September 13th. So nearly 2 months later. The ranking member, who ended up being Dianne Feinstein, awkward the way that they word things. The lady sitting right there, you can say Senator Feinstein, but the whole time the chairman said the ranking member. For the entire time that Feinstein held the document, she never talked to Kavanaugh. She never talked to anybody about what was going on. She never tried to figure out the legitimacy of it. It just sat and waited for it to hit the public. And once it hit the public, she denied all leak. She actually said that the leak could have come from the Blasio Ford camp. So a little bit of infighting there on who initially leaked the story to the press, which is pretty crucial, considering her whole claim for keeping it secret was because she was afraid her identity was going to be released, and then she's the one who releases it. So that's a little suspicious there as well. There were many people that she claimed were at the party. Now, I'm not going to get into her memory. She's a psychologist who has written papers on being able to get people to recall memory at different points after trauma. So I think she's very educated. I think she would be able to pull memories if she needed to pull memories. the lack of memories is not that suspicious. Although I feel like she might have remembered more considering the field that she went into. If you were attacked like this could be the catalyst for why you're in that field that you're in. Um, just a bunch of inconsistencies. But one of the people that she noted was at the party was a lifelong friend that had given her a ride home after the party. The friend refuses to testify in front of the Senate. Says she doesn't know anything about the party. Never met Brett at that party or otherwise. So again, a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of holes poked in one story versus the other. The claim has been made. Hillary has come out in defense. Believe the woman, which I don't have a problem with. If you didn't flip flop when they were attacking Bill and say, "Hey, she's making money, she's getting her 15 minutes of fame," there's a whole lot of reasons why she's out here doing this. And again, with Dr. Blasio Ford, the Senate committee asked her about how she was going to pay for the funds for the lawyer. She didn't have an answer. Talked about her GoFundMe page, and 24 hours she got $1 million, over more than enough to pay for the lawyer and then some. So there's extreme money to be made when you're thrust into the public eye like this. The riches are untold when your story can be sold at every newspaper, every TV show, every anything. I mean, it's pumping everywhere. We're putting out the content here, so it is what it is. Yeah. That's basically it for Ford. I mean, she claims she only had one beer. And a lot of times her memories aren't definitive. She says to my best estimate, which, again, if it's your initial attack, could be a catalyst. I mean, you're in the field for bringing up traumatic memories. I mean, there's a lot there for one to remember. But for the laughter to be the only thing that she really remembers is pretty odd considering the intelligent lady she is. But I want to get into Brett. The whole reason why I ran this whole thing. Regardless of whether Blasio is right or wrong, there's no criminal charges there. So, I mean, it does speak to a level of character. But how many of them want to answer for the things we did in high school or the things we said? Or, I mean, not all of us are being accused of sexual assault, but we all did some pretty stupid things. So being a jock and whatnot is here nor there. We all had beer in high school. It's part of the maturing process. The other thing I want to talk about, we'll start off with Mr. Brett's drinking problem, because best believe he had one. Not only was he a Yale frat boy, which was synonymous with their frat parties and everything else, but he claims to have never drank so much that he blacked out or lost parts of his being able to call time, which I find highly fascinating, almost impossible. I do not know how that happens. Considering when you have your friend Mark Judge, who is also a member party of this accusation, he writes a book about his party days, and in that book, the character of Brett Kavanaugh is played by Bart O. Kavanaugh. Can't make this shit up. And in that book, Bart is frequently incoherently drunk, puking, just ridiculous state of mind. Um, don't understand how we got through college other than lineage. He's a legacy, so you know what I mean. That shit. You can all suspect how it goes. I didn't go to Yale, but I can only imagine how that shit works. There's a lot of things. He on the Senate floor. He lied about boofing. I had to look this one up myself. He said boofing was related to farting. Sold. Did a little bit of research into what boofing is. Straight up lied. No way around it. It's crazy. Now again, who wants to be held accountable for what they said in high school? And in his yearbook it says, "Have you boofed yet?" So I can only imagine if he did or if he didn't. But at the same time, it's pretty aggressive, Bart. Pretty aggressive, Bart Kavanaugh, to be boofing. But you know, that speaks to the maturation process of a young 22-year-old in college and whatnot. The things that I really want to get into are his political and professional career, because one of the major bad things about Brett is his politics bleed into his professional career, which is very bad when we start letting political ideologies dictate legislation. So I wanna start off, and this is something that Harsh touched on earlier. It's the 1998 case where he argued against attorney-client privilege and the death. I cannot remember the gentleman's name. I don't have it written down. Hopefully Harsh can jump in here and fill us in, because he called that from memory. I just started my research into Brett, so I'm figuring all this stuff out about him, but it's pretty crazy. The other thing I want to get into is he went from Yale and he started working for Judge Kennedy, which is the judge that he is replacing, ironically. So everybody's worried about him being a different stature of judge from Kennedy. He worked under him. He was tutored under him. I imagine he's got his own personality and his own perspectives, but I don't imagine he's too far out from his wing. I mean, he come up through the system, started out under him, so that's pretty significant. The other thing is Kennedy, his son, made large deals to Jared Kushner, who is Trump's son-in-law. So there's some backdoor connections, some connections that people don't know about or see without catching some of the details by delving in and doing your research. The other thing is in right after that case, he joined the legal team against Bill Clinton, then president, for his extramarital affairs inside the Oval Office, which, you know, it speaks to the level of hypocrisy that the Democrats are playing right now. But Brett was a part of the team that drew up the papers to impeach Clinton, and I think he was a main drafter of those papers. So he started out again in a very politically driven avenue of decided his professional career. Hey, Harsh.
Well, yeah. I have no idea. Well, I have no idea, of course. And I'm not this time, I'm not even in charge of it.
Right.
Yeah. So you know what? This whole thing is something else. Like that you know, like I said before, they're both like Kavanaugh and Ford. I mean, I really don't want to, like I said before, I'm not really fond of either of these people. That's where I'm at, you know.
No, for real. And it's crazy. I'm more concerned about Ford. I'm more concerned about Kavanaugh than I am Ford. I think I think Ford has her 15 minutes of fame. She's gotten there. She's been in the
Right.
spotlight. I think she'll fall out, and
There it
most
is.
people will never
So
remember her. But I think the greater impact is Brett. We need to understand who we're looking at putting on the Supreme Court. Now he he wrote up the papers to impeach Clinton, but at the same time he's since abdicated. Um, and shortly thereafter, I think he started the process with Bush when they were worried about Bush declaring war without Congress and invading Afghanistan. But he later drew up the papers to say that a president couldn't be held under legal prosecution or civil prosecution while he was in office. So that's a pretty big, considering what's going on with Trump and the way that they're coming at their throat. That would pretty a pretty big significant connection if Jared Kushner got a loan from the son of the judge who's stepping down, so the judge who came up underneath him can get his life seat on the bar. So
right.
it's pretty crazy.
It is crazy, but I'm not surprised. Like everyone talks about, Kavanaugh. Oh my God, poor Kavanaugh. He's this and he's that. It's like, no, Kavanaugh does not give a fuck about the Bill of Rights. Kavanaugh does not give a fuck about the Fourth Amendment. Kavanaugh is the guy who helped draft the Patriot Act, him and Pedo Joe. So they're both like it's amazing how Christine Ford, and I don't even know what to say of that allegation. I'm just gonna go how she comes off as, because whether she's telling the truth or not, I have no fucking idea.
Right.
What I do know is that, not my clowns, not my circus. But as for Kavanaugh, he's just horrible. Like, I don't know. Like I said, Kavanaugh and Ford look like stereotypes. Like Kavanaugh does look like the guy who 30 years ago was in the Wrigley Field bleachers, with the Cubs hat backwards and the Ryan Sandberg jersey, slipping roofies and women's Budweisers. But on the other hand, Christine Ford seems like your latte liberal who preaches tolerance, preaches everything is great, and let's all come together, while making dog whistle racist remarks about people of color, how she's not comfortable around certain types of people because they're too dark or something. So I don't know. If you want to go by character test,
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And again, it's all perception and perspective. So I'm just trying to stay with the facts at this point.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have much on Ford. I know she wrote a paper saying that you could recall traumatic memories through hypnosis, which pseudoscience to me. I call bullshit.
Well, then I think you've made more of a discovery on Ford's testimony in 1 minute than I did and than anyone else did. Like the entire.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done my research. I definitely tried to figure out who she was and what type of person she was. And she's a smart lady, man. If there's a way to trick somebody visually or the nuances of being able to do that, she's the lady. I mean, she's the one you go to find out if she was doing that.
Right. I mean,
have the ability to do it herself.
If that's true if that is true that you're saying about Ford, then that's like, how do I explain this? This is like her not being able to remember that night would be no different than like a star baseball player forgetting how to swing a bat.
No, it's ridiculous.
I mean, that is something else. I mean, I don't know. Ben Swan also did a show about how there was 8 reasons not to believe Christine Ford. So, I mean, I don't know. But I do know is if that is true, I mean, God, but that's the thing, though. It's like just because you can lie about Christine Ford, not lie about Christine Ford, but like just because you find out the bad about Christine Ford doesn't mean all that great either. Especially with what you mentioned about lying about, like if you're lying about stupid stuff. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
you're lying
no,
about.
who's to say that something didn't happen to her?
Of
It might not
course.
have been Brett. It might not have been the party that nobody remembers. I mean, so there's key things there, but you can't dismiss her. She's a very smart lady.
Yeah, I'm not dismissing her at all.
There's
Well,
something there, so
yeah, I think something did happen. I don't know by who or by what. But what I do know is that even if you take that out of the equation, Kavanaugh shouldn't be confirmed.
no.
Like that's the thing people fail to realize. Like Kavanaugh shouldn't be confirmed whether you believe Ford or not.
No, and that's the crazy thing. This whole allegation has taken the inspection of Kavanaugh out of it. If you support Kavanaugh, you support him blindly. Nobody's looking at him. Nobody's seeing him. If you don't, you don't, and you were never going to. But at least the people who might have been on the fence aren't on the fence because of such a division.
It is, but now I'm starting to wonder about this whole Ford thing. Now, who is controlled? Now, who is the bigger piece of controlled opposition, Ford or Kavanaugh? Because you have all these truthers and these patriot types who think, "Oh, Kavanaugh's great; he's a constitutionalist. Ford is some shill who's this and that." But then on the other hand, I'm starting to think Ford is created so the right can create more. So not the right, but so so people can create more support for Kavanaugh. Like, there's no reason to support someone like Kavanaugh. This guy does not care about your rights. He helped draft the Patriot Act, and if what's true about him and helping Vince Foster, then you definitely shouldn't support it. Not helping Vince Foster, helping cover up the death of Vince Foster, then you definitely shouldn't support him.
No, I agree. Hold on, Harsh. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna drop you out while I talk, and then I'll bring you in while you talk. So let's try this.
Okay.
I agree with you, Harsh. The crazy thing about the covering up the killing is the whole point of attorney client privilege, and then being a judge who's supposed to be upholding of all these truths and integrities of the craft. He goes and he fights against the fundamental key necessity of the trade, and that's client privilege. You need that attorney-client privilege. If you don't have that, then there's no reason for me to trust my attorney completely, or for my attorney to trust me completely. The other thing that you touched on was who's the controlled opposition. I don't think Kavanaugh's controlled opposition at all. I think Kavanaugh was the guy from the beginning. Kavanaugh's the Yale guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he's skull and bones and we don't know it yet. One of the major things that you touched upon was the Patriot Act, but I think the second biggest thing that he did was he was a lead member of the Florida campaign for George Bush that got the recount in favor of George Bush that got him in office. So he was one of the main guys. And then right from there, he went and got appointed by Bush and did the whole Patriot Act and all of that stuff. I mean, it's just the way that it all ties in. I think Kavanaugh is a made guy. I think he's been a made guy. I think his father's legacy. I think all of that plays in. And then Blasey Ford is controlled opposition because she's credible enough to not have her reputation destroyed completely because of her profession. Wicked smart lady, wicked together. But at the same time, there's enough there where she's plausibly forgetful. You know what I mean? It's not that she doesn't know. It's that it's 36 years ago. Who would really remember as a normal human being? You know what I mean? Because the majority of us can forget that she's a really educated professor in the field that this whole thing studies around traumatic memories. There's a traumatic event that she's trying to remember from 30 years ago. She's the professional. All educate. I mean, listen to the accolades that they go through when they start the hearing. It's ridiculous. She's a really smart woman in this field, and you're going to tell me that she's like me? I can't remember shit. I can't remember what I was going to go into the next room for. It's bullshit.
Well, I mean, that is true, but I will say, as someone who does know a lot of professionals, whether they are like physicians or psychologists and all that, just because they got a PhD or an MD to their name doesn't necessarily mean they're the sharpest tools in the shed.
No, I agree. What does a PhD or MD mean?
Right.
Just
So
a piece of paper.
Right. I mean, as our guy Chris Lewis will tell you, it's not education, it's indoctrination.
For real.
There's also
smart dude too. I love listening to Chris talk. The cool things he does with his kids. He's a model dude.
Yeah, he really is. He's done a lot of great work in Philly. Someone that people, I don't even say people look up to, because we all have to be our own leaders, but at the same time, he's really a great individual. Yeah, he's very inspirational. Someone that's very passionate, someone who more people should be like. That's really what it is. But besides that, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about the Kavanaugh and the Ford stuff. I just think the whole circus is like,
that's really it. The only other thing is the Roe v. Wade, and it's not really that big of an issue for me. I think the state should handle it. I don't think the government should be allowed in it.
No, Roe v. Wade's not going to be touched.
Decided if they wanted to be allowed in their state or not.
Yeah, but I think Roe v. Wade's self a distraction. They're not going to touch Roe v. Wade.
I don't either. It's too instrumental to civil rights to take it out or start fucking with it. It's going to cost way too much.
Right. Like that. I think that's just a dangling carrot. So people are like, oh my God, you got to cry about the Supreme Court. Blah, blah, blah. It's like everyone forgets. All these people are crying about Merrick. Like, this is how stupid this is. Everyone is crying that, Kavanaugh or Gorsuch has taken Merrick Garland's seat. And I'm sitting here like, Merrick Garland and Kavanaugh had like the same type of, had the same type of record, civil record. Neither of them gave a fuck about the Bill of Rights. Neither of them gave a fuck about the Patriot Act. And we're supposed to be, poor Merrick Garland. Like, the dude was Mitch McConnell's wet dream, and now I'm supposed to be sad that he didn't get nominated? Really?
Yeah, no, and Maine seems to be a pivotal vote for this Kavanaugh situation. So to see Susan Collins take the right stance and vote the wrong way is so heartbreaking. She needs the evidence. The one thing that she said that I liked was the burden of, it's not a criminal case, so there is no evidence. It's like a civil case. I need a more likely than not. And it didn't meet the more likely than not. So she's voted for Kavanaugh. I wish it wasn't. I wish it didn't get confirmed, but at the same time, she read the situation right. You know what I mean? It just sucks that the right read gives you the wrong result.
Well, I mean, then again, who's to say it was about her reading it right and it just and now more grandstanding? I don't know.
No, I agree. Angus got up there and he totally blew it. There's complete grandstanding, all bullet points. He went down the list and did a horrible job of representing himself as a representative of Maine. It is a disgusting thing to watch. I want to throw it out there. All the Mainers, get out there and vote for Eric Breaking. He's a down-to-earth constitutionalist. He understands that he's going to do things for the people, not for the money and the politics. you got to play the money. You got to get the votes. You got to do all that stuff. So you got to play. But in our state, he wrote the constitutional carry. Our constitution is our permit. He's a real dude. So get out there, get the career politicians like Angus King out. He's a young guy. He supports the Second Amendment. He supports the people of the state. He supports the people of the country too. The interview that I did with him, his answers on Syria and other important issues really on point. He touched the need for a real investigation in Syria and not just a bunch of finger pointing. I mean, the real dude smart on all the issues. So I would advocate getting out there and voting and drinking. Let's bring some common sense to politics, man. We need to get out there and get our people into office.
All right. Well, is Brakey's running as an independent, right?
No, I think he's a Republican. The thing that I think he's doing is he's running direct opposite of Angus. So Angus is more your Democrat, independent, liberal, independent. So Brakey is your conservative, independent. You know what I mean? He's not a throwdown Republican, but he's definitely representative Republican, and he's a free-thinking independent. He's not held by political ideology. He might be held by party lines. You know what I mean? He's a Republican, so he shows up for Republican Second Amendment rally. He's not going to Democratic events. So
I don't like either. Yeah, I don't like either side of the duopoly. That said, Angus Kane is a complete hillbot. So,
for real, we need to get him out. And the more people like Brakey, I think it's going to break down the party lines. It's something that we really need to do.
No, yeah, that at some point the duopoly has to collapse. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about the same crap years and years from now. It's just, yeah.
No, for real. When does it end? I don't see this going too much longer. I mean, they're already starting to put chips in everybody, taking the money away. So, I mean, it's not long before it hits somewhere ugly, but hopefully I won't see it in my lifetime.
Yeah, I hope not either.
Hope they change it for my kids' lifetime.
Oh, Jesus. I don't want to think about that. Yeah, on that note, this is Harsh Med signing out. Larry, I'm going to let you take this home. You're doing great as always. Love you, fam.
Yeah. Have a good night, brother.
You too.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's just a shit show in Congress. We got a bunch of divisive people. I think we touched on some really good things with Harsh that he brought up, and that's the controlled opposition of this. I mean, you see the way that the media is playing it. They're pumping all the Democrat stuff. I got Democrat friends that pump the anti-Republican, anti-conservative, and it's not that conservative or Republican is bad. You know what I mean? It's that we take two different approaches at life and different strokes for different folks. So stop being so divisive and come together and love one each other. And in the process, work on yourself. Because if you don't work on yourself and you don't become a better you can't do shit for anybody else. So with that, I'm going to leave you with a quote from one of my greatest inspirational philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, and that is, stop wasting time talking about what a good man should be and be one. Good night, everybody.